Okay. Well, welcome again to our WomenNC Leadership Training Program info session. This is going to be a really informal conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about the program, and then I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to turn it over to Camille, who is one of our current NC State WomenNC Scholars. And Camille will really talk through kind of her experience in the program, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A for anybody to share questions that you might have related to the program. So to begin with, y'all might be wondering, what is this program? So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of it. So NC State has worked with WomenNC, which is a local nonprofit based in Durham, North Carolina, who's really focused on leadership development and empowering young leaders to do advocacy related to gender equity primarily at the United Nations, but also at the local and national levels as well. We've been partnered with WomenNC for about 12 years for this program, and we join several other Triangle area universities who are part of the program. So this year, for example, we have 2 NC State WomenNC Scholars. There are also scholars from Duke and UNC Chapel Hill. In other years, there's also been UNC Greensboro, Bennett College, and Meredith as well. And the basic premise of the program is this is a really prestigious program that gives young leaders access to developing policies and doing a year-long social science research project that they are paired with a femtor who is a mentor at the RTI Global Gender Center to flesh out their project and ultimately present it at a number of platforms and venues throughout the year. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in a moment. And each year we at NC State fully fund anywhere from 2 to 3 scholars to participate in this program. And we do that in partnership with several other partners at NC State. So this current year that Camille is a scholar, the partnership is with the Women's Center and our parent unit, the Office for Institutional Equity and Diversity, as well as the Student Leadership and Engagement Office and the Office of Global Engagement. And then the 4th partner is usually the dean from the colleges where our scholars are learning or part of their program. So Camille, you're in PCOM, right? Or are you CHAS?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
What's your college? Are you, your humanities and social sciences, your CHAS?
No, I'm business administration, but
okay, so you're PCOM. Okay, so this year our deans from PCOM, which is our other scholar, for Camille, and then CHAS for our other scholar are also partners in this program. So throughout the year, essentially what will happen is scholars that are selected to be a part of this program will identify and investigate a specific issue of gender disparity in North Carolina. They will also attend about 5 workshops and biweekly mentor meetings, and they'll work with that femtor, that mentor from the RTI Global Gender Center, to design and conduct an independent social science research project. So they'll have the guidance of that mentor throughout the entire process. As part of that process, they will also develop 1 to 2 policy recommendations based on the research. And Camille might tell us a little bit about what her research is this year and some of the policy recommendations. Again, you'll have the guidance of some mentors helping to kind of figure out what those policy recommendations could be. And then the project ultimately ends with, as I said, a number of presentations at different venues at the local level. So Camille just presented last Friday, as part of the Local to Global Forum. And then this upcoming Monday, we'll be presenting at the UN Commission on the Status of Women. It's virtual this year. Next year, it will be in person in New York City. Hopefully, post-COVID, we'll be in a position to be able to travel again. And so that's kind of the gist of the program. And like I said, it's a very prestigious program, and it's not just NC State students, but other students from area universities are a part of this program as well. I'm going to talk about key dates in a moment, but I just want to play this short video. It's from a couple of years ago, so don't really pay attention to the dates that are mentioned, but this is really, I think, a great snapshot of scholars who have participated in the program over the years and the impact that they've gained from that program. So let me play that.
Apply to be a WomenNC Scholar in the 2019-2020 year. Do it for several reasons. Do it to make your world a better place for women and girls. Do it to engage in original research and craft policy solutions with a mentor from RTI's Global Gender Center. Do it to make your case locally and globally when you travel to New York to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in March. Apply to be a WomenNC Scholar. Come and be a part of our mission to lead young adults in the elimination of injustice against women and girls.
The best thing about being a WomenNC Scholar was being able to build a network of people that share the same passions and have the same interests that I do.
The best thing about being a WomenNC Scholar was getting to do research about how I can advance women's rights in the community that I love.
My favorite part about being a WomenNC Scholar was having the opportunity to work with leaders and advocates on both a local and national level.
Apply to be a WomenNC Scholar. Help us achieve our vision and make it your vision to raise a generation that honors women's human rights. For more information and to apply, go to our website, womennc.org.
Okay, hopefully you all could hear that okay. And I'll be sure to send out the video after this session along with the slides in case you want to review it again. But I did want to point out some of the selected key dates that are important for you all to know if you're interested in applying to this program. Know that it is a very time-intensive program. The members of WomenNC describe it as like a 3-credit class. So if you've got a lot going on academically and you're working, this may not be something that fits in your schedule. So just keep that in mind. But some of the key dates, again, there are additional dates that will be part of the application process once that goes live. So I'd encourage you to really look at that as you're thinking about the program. The applications will open on March 18th, and I'll be sure to send an email around to you all to alert you to the fact that it's open once it's live. The applications will remain open for about a month. So if you are interested in applying, the deadline to do so would be April 22nd. And the folks who make it to the final round will go through a short interview period that will happen the week of May 1st through the 8th. And then scholars who have been accepted into the program will be notified on May 9th. And the program then will officially launch in mid to late May. So May 22nd is a meet and greet where you'll meet with other scholars from not just NC State, but the other Triangle institutions, as well as, I'm not sure, maybe Camille will let us know. I'm not sure if the femtors are a part of that meet and greet or if they come in later. They are, okay. And then over the summer, you will start going to some of the workshops. The workshops over the summer will be on Zoom. Once the fall semester begins, they're hoping to bring them back in person so that there's a better opportunity for the scholars across the Triangle area universities to kind of have more opportunities to network in person and get to know each other, which is a little bit hard to do on a Zoom call. But for the summer, the workshops will be on Zoom. And over the summer, you'll also start to kind of develop an idea for a research topic, work with your femtor to kind of identify some research questions. And then once the fall semester starts, that's really where a lot of the work picks up. So over the fall semester, you'll again continue to do some more workshops on different topics like advocacy and policy and different things like that, how to conduct research, things like that nature. And then you'll start doing your outline. A first draft of your paper will be due November 27th, which is right around Thanksgiving. And then pretty much most of the work will be done in the fall semester. And spring semester is more kind of like fine tuning. So the research will be concluded and it'll be time to kind of finalize the paper and your slides and your policy note, work on some of those pieces of the research, and then start doing the presentations. As I mentioned, Camille just did a presentation on Friday, has another one coming up on Monday. So spring is really more for like the presentations and the finality of the program. And then, so the dates here for that March 2nd will be that local forum. It's called the Local to Global Forum. In non-COVID years, that's usually at RTI Global Gender Center, which is in Research Triangle Park. And then the March 13th through the 17th is the week of the UN Commission on the Status of Women in New York next year. And that is, in case folks aren't familiar with it, it is a global meeting of policymakers from every country around the world who are focused on, at that meeting, they develop policy language and a platform around recognizing gender equity within a specific theme. So each year has a different theme. And the WomenNC Scholars will do presentations at the UN. And so it's a great opportunity to get in front of world leaders and really showcase the research that you all have completed. And then after that's over, April is really kind of like doing some of the advocacy work. As I mentioned, there's some policy recommendations. So if your policies are related to, like Camille will tell us a little bit about some of her policies that have to do with like local education. So going before local school boards and having some of those meetings. So that's kind of the end of the program. I think that's everything I wanted to say about that slide. I think one thing to note is if you look at these dates where the workshops are, those typically are on Sundays, just because obviously y'all are students and coordinating across multiple university schedules is a little challenging. So that's just something to keep in mind. And again, this is basically the equivalent of a 3-credit class. The last slide I want to talk about before I turn it over to Camille is really the application details. So here at NC State, we have prioritized undergraduates for this program because we want to help provide areas of platform and emerging leadership opportunities for undergraduate students. A lot of our graduate students already have a lot of opportunities. And so here we have this open to any student who will be in their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th year. As long as you're an undergraduate graduate next year, you would qualify to apply for this program. And unless I haven't seen the application this year, it's because it's not live yet, but unless they change it, it typically will involve 2 essays, 2 recommendation letters, and a resume. And so what I will say about the recommendation letters is, remember this application's open March 18th and they're due April 22nd. So if you think you're interested in this program, I would reach out to folks that you would like to have do a recommendation letter for you early on in that process. There's nothing worse than, waiting until like the week before a deadline and asking for a recommendation letter. I want to make sure you all are successful with your applications. And I know that a lot of, if you're looking at professors or other folks, like they may not have sufficient time to put together a recommendation letter for you if you don't give them like several weeks notice. So that's just one other thing I would put out there for you all. Let me see. I see Mira has a question. Is it possible to get college credit for this program? I think it depends on what your program is. There are different, I know one of the Triangle universities was able to get credit for their students. It's something we're open to. It's not something that's built into the program. So it would have to be something that would be advocated for. And it would really depend on what your college is and what your requirements are within that college. It's not a standard part of the program though. before I turn it over to Camille to talk about her experience with the program, I just wanted to see if there are other questions that you all have sort of about the program, the deadlines, any of like the logistics. And you can feel free to pop a question in the chat or unmute if you feel comfortable. I'll give it a moment. Camille, is there anything that you would add based on kind of what I shared?
No, I think it was pretty comprehensive. I just want, to emphasize the fact that it's really time taking, and yeah, it does take a lot of time. It's like a constant work, like in the whole year, you never stop working on it.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions at the moment. So Camille, I'm going to turn it over to you. Before I do, I want to these are the last sets of scholars that we've had. So I don't know if you can see yeah, okay. So here on the far left, we have Sarah and Jada with the Woofies in front of the UN. So they were the last group that got to go to the UN pre-COVID. They've both gone on to graduate school and should be graduating, I think, by now. And then here on the top, we have Nyla and Jackie, who were the scholars last year, also both in graduate school, or they might have been the year before. There was a year where we took off for COVID. And then down here, we have Sarah, who was unable to be with us tonight, and then Camille. So you don't have any slides, right, Camille?
No, I mean,
okay, what I'm going to do is stop sharing so everybody can see you, if you're okay with that.
Of course.
Okay. Camille, go for it.
Yeah. So last year at the same time, I was in the same spot. I don't regret I've applied for this program because it has been such a wonderful experience. Being able to work on something you're passionate about the whole year and actually making difference has been really rewarding. And also when you're doing this program, you're choosing your research topic, so it's really something that is close to your heart, and it's even better to work on this thing throughout the year. And it really enabled me to meet such wonderful and powerful women, and really beautiful relationship, especially when you're going to be linked with a femtor, a mentor, but in WomenNC we call it femtor. It really creates relationships and really able to build a network. So it has been amazing. And regarding my research project, I've been working on Wake County Public School sexual health curriculum. And my exact research topic was how can the Wake County Public School system deliver comprehensive sexual health curriculum for all students under current North Carolina laws. And as Janine mentioned, so I've been presenting last Friday, and I will be presenting to the CSW next Monday, which I'm so excited about. And so I was able to come up with some recommendations. So one of the recommendation based on the findings, because it's like a research work, so I did literature review, but I also have done a lot of interviews and interview a lot of people, which is also like a great part of the program, being able to reach out to a lot of wonderful people. So I came out with 3 main recommendations that I'm planning on advocating in April in school boards. So I want the creation and distribution of comprehensive sex education resources for all students. And this includes LGBTQ+ students in the form of brochures, because as you may know, in North Carolina, the laws regarding sexual education are quite conservative. And the Helpful Living course, which is the course where Wake County high school students are taught sex education, is taught in 9th grade most of the time. And I want to make this class mandatory in the 12th grades, because the research showed that this is the class where students are most likely to engage in sexual relationship. And I also want to require training and qualification for Helpful Living teachers, because there are not any in North Carolina, and I do think it is very important. So this is basically what I've been working on. And as I said, I'm planning to show my research and my recommendation to school board and to Christine Kushner, which is the superintendent of Wake County High School. And so yeah, so this program has been wonderful. Unfortunately for my year, due to COVID, it was all on Zoom. I've been able to meet with my mentor in real life, because this is something each Fenty and Femtor organize the time how they want. So I've been able to see her in real life, but for the rest, the workshops and the meetings, everything was on Zoom, which unfortunately, it's a bit less easy to network this way, but it was still, amazing, and we were still able to talk and share everything. So that was amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Camille. So at this point in the conversation, we just wanted to open the conversation to any of you all who might have questions for Camille or for myself, to help you kind of get a better understanding of the program, and any advice you might be seeking or anything of that nature. So I will gladly turn it over to all of you who might have questions. And again, feel free to unmute and talk directly, or if you prefer, you can pop a question in the chat as well.
Yeah, I had a question. I was just wondering, how many hours per week would you say you dedicated to working on your project?
Yeah, so really dependent on the week, because obviously there's like a couple deadlines, but I would say at least 3 hours a week, the research, and then, the drafting the projects. Then there's the week when there's the workshops, and there was really something like 2 or 3 hours. So at least 3 hours. And as I said, this is great because this is like very, something people are passionate about, but this is very time taking.
Thanks for that question. I think that's an important one, just to give folks a better perspective and see if this is something that you all have capacity to fit into. I know you all are super busy all the time. So other questions that folks have? Camille, do you have any advice that you would give? Camille was part of this info session last year, so heard from our previous scholars. Was there something that they shared last year in this session that really made you say, I definitely want to do this, or any advice that you would offer for folks who might be interested in applying?
I remember on that slide that one of the girls gave last year, and I realized how true it was. It's when you choose your research topic, choose something that really interests you, because this is something you're going to be working on a lot. And yes, really, it needs to be something that really, is close to your heart, because you're going to do such a huge amount of work. So choose really something you're passionate about, because you're going to be seeing this subject a lot.
And even if you aren't able to secure college credit for it, it could be something that maybe you're able to utilize in your classes. So you could do a little bit of a double duty there. If you're a political science major and you're focusing on X topic and you're writing papers for it for a class, it could be a similar topic that, like Camille saying, you're going to spend a lot of time focusing on it. So that might be a strategic piece to think about too.
Yeah, I'm writing a thesis this year because I'm a senior, and actually my thesis is about WomenNC. So I'm kind of going to use my project for that. So that's good if you can use it for like couple matters.
I have a question. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect that you have experienced from participating in this program?
So first, so last week was my first presentation, and being able to present your findings and actually seeing that you're making a difference, and the people is seeing your work and be interested in even keep going with the work you've done. It's really rewarding, because you've actually helping people and showing people the impact you can have on North Carolina and on women and girls in the States. So I think that was one of the most rewarding parts. And as I will advocate and trying to actually make my recommendation implemented, I think this will be really rewarding as well.
Were there any challenges that have come up, Camille, that, you know, like I know prior to opening the session, we were chatting about one thing in particular. I don't know if that's like the biggest challenge you faced, or like what kind of support do you get when you kind of have challenges along the way?
So I think the most challenging thing, but I think I've talked already a lot about it, it's the time. I'm taking a lot of credit, and I know sometimes I had a hard time handling everything. So at the end, everything is coming through, but I know Maria, which is the executive director of WomenNC, and my mentor helped me a lot during this project. And if you happen to actually enter this program, do not ever hesitate to ask them for help, and don't feel bad about asking for help, because they're really here to help, and they're such wonderful women. And so, yeah, but I think the time was very challenging. And also, as I'm, you know, English is my second language, sometimes it was also hard, you know.
Any other questions that folks have? Camille, do you, can you share a little bit? I know a couple of people at the beginning when they were introducing themselves were interested in what topics people were doing research on. Do you have a good sense of some of the other folks in your cohort that you could talk about?
So this year we are 4 scholars who presented our projects. So Sarah, which is also the scholar in NC State, did something about how environment was like gender stereotype, and how, you know, environmental issues were mostly linked to women and used, you know, as a commercial way, like through women and not especially through men. So how that played into account. I know Margaret, which is a scholar from Duke, she did a subject about the access of reproductive health care in the Durham area due to COVID, and how it has changed, and how women had less access to healthcare in Durham County. I know Gabriela, she did something about the access to, and also due to COVID, the access of nannies. Well, I forgot her exact name of her topic, but you know, like how it was hard to women to go back to work since they didn't have access to nannies, and you know, how it was harder,
like access to childcare and the impact.
Exactly, access to childcare. I just forgot the words. And I know Carrie, which is from Duke as well, she did a subject on housing security in the Durham County as well.
Okay. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. I have a couple more slides, but definitely keep asking the questions if you have them. Let's see. I did want to put the website out here as well. And again, I'll send you all this information probably by the end of this week, or I might wait until actually the application's open so I don't send you too many emails. But the WomenNC website is womennc.org. And if you go there /scholar-program, it'll take you directly to the page that really talks about this program. You can also navigate from that website to a page where you can see pictures of all of the scholars, and on each picture, each section, or each box for each scholar, there will be, especially for the past ones, there'll be links to their final research paper and their PowerPoint slides. For Camille and Sarah, I'm not sure if your final info is there quite yet, since you're still kind of putting stuff out there. But that way you can also look at some of the other research topics that folks have done, not just this year, but over the past several years, because that will give you a good sense. And the application will also typically have a theme. You know, I mentioned there were 2 essays. Typically there's one theme essay around whatever the theme is for the next UN conference. And so there may be a tie-in there around, like in past years, there's been themes around refugee rights, or, you know, but really you can use any type of topic that is related to gender equity. And again, this program isn't open just to female identified students. Anyone who cares about gender equity is more than welcome to apply. And you'll see from past scholars that there are quite a few men who have applied in past years. More recently, it's mostly been female students, but it's certainly open to anyone. So I would definitely go check out that website, and you can read a little bit more about the program and look at some of the research that other scholars have participated in. And I know at least the NC State scholars who have participated in this program in the past are doing amazing things now. Like several of them have gone on to, like I said, go to graduate school. So Nyla, who was a recent scholar, went to Harvard Kennedy School of Government and now is a fellow on Capitol Hill doing policy work. Jada, who is in this picture on the far right, I believe Jada she did an internship, a very fancy internship at CNN, if I'm not mistaken, after this program. Sarah, who is in the gray sweater in that picture, is at Duke, I believe, doing a graduate program. Jackie from last year is finishing up her program at Emory, getting a master's in public health. And a lot of them have utilized this program kind of to further cement their passion around issues and also use it as like an opportunity as a stepping stone to something as a career. So it's definitely very prestigious, and would highly recommend folks to kind of take a look at the program and see if you think it's something that you'd be interested in. The applications, again, just the reminder there, they'll open around the 18th and close around April 22nd. And I'm going to show you, this is the, I put in the chat that Monday's session. So as Camille said, on Monday, she'll be presenting. And this is the UN meeting. And again, it's virtual, but it will be at 6 p.m. and they're going to be streaming it live on WomenNC's Facebook page. So that'll give you a great opportunity to kind of hear from some of the other scholars about their work. And yeah, you can see here the description around sexual and reproductive health education, childcare systems and services, affordable housing, environmental sustainability, all of which Camille shared with us. Let me just pause for a moment and see. That's all of the slides I have. So I'm going to stop share. Want to give another moment for folks who might have any additional questions. It's a great opportunity to get any tips or advice from Camille while she's on here. I also know folks have midterms. Camille's got some midterms tomorrow. Maybe some of you do too. So I'm also happy to end early if there's no further questions. Yes. So this is the main website for WomenNC, and I believe the specific page for the program is, what did I say? Scholar programs, Scholar-program. Sometimes you can't copy and paste from chat, but I will put it in an email to you all for sure, so you'll have access to that information. Camille, any final words you'd like to share with anybody?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that it's such a wonderful program. And as you said, it really can open you to new opportunities even after the program, or even, you know, be able to other people to keep going on what you did as a research. So if you're really interested, please apply, because this is such a wonderful opportunity. And also maybe I can, through my emails, if somebody has any question, I would be fine with it. if, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. If you're comfortable with that, you can feel free to pop it in the chat. I can also send that out on an email to the participants if you are okay with that. It's up to you. There you go. Well, wonderful. Well, I don't see any further questions, so I will give you all your time back. If you have midterms, I'm sending you lots of positive energy. If you are cruising through your midterms, you already happened and you're just ready for spring break, I'm also sending you lots of positive energy for a healthy and safe and fun spring break. So thank you all so much for coming, and I'll be sure to send out the material shortly. So thank you.